Welcome to FinThink's podcast, where we like to talk about all things to do with young people, neurodiversity and the education system. Specifically, we like to talk about alternative provision and how alternative education can be a real opportunity to create alternative pathways for those that don't fit the mainstream model. Okay, hey Andrew, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you very much. Nice to be back again.
Yes, it's nice to see you again. Yeah, before I was doing more stuff about business and property, and now I'm moving more into my social enterprise side of things, talking to people that may have struggled in education or have something to say, basically, that might not have a platform to say it somewhere else. So the reason I invited you today is because I know you came out as dyslexic, how we just discussed, and I was wondering if you could just tell our audience a little bit about that.
So I actually struggled quite a lot at school. It was quite a few decades ago now, actually, my schooling. But I actually got diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 13 years old. And there was two of my teachers that knew that I had it. And when I asked for extra help, they gave it, and that was in English and maths. All the other teachers, I was called a distraction, a disturbance, a dunce, a dinlow, and disruptive.
I can't believe teachers actually called you those names.
Yeah, all of those things. I mean, I left school. What am I now? I'm 45 now. So I left at 18. So 25 odd years ago, bit more, 27 years ago I left. So the schooling system was quite different to where it is now. I mean, to give you some kind of idea, obviously with your background as well, you'll know the Child Act actually came in when I went to secondary school at 13. I was the first year where the Child Act was actually a legal entity, and there was a lot of change in the school at the time. But yeah, that same year I got diagnosed with dyslexia. I basically had extra English lessons 5 days a week, so that I learned how to read, I learned how to spell the right way round. I got taught a lot of techniques on how to work around my problems. So a lot of words that I spell, a lot of other dyslexics constantly misspell them. No matter how hard they work. But I started to train my brain to become photographic. So I don't spell a word. Certain words I don't spell them. I have a picture of them in my head, and I just know the order that the letters go in because of that, not because I know the actual order. So it was about kind of re-educating and retraining my brain. But like I said, over 20, well, it was 33 years ago, 32 years ago, there wasn't the same knowledge around it as there is today. But there's still quite a lot of stigma attached to it. But yeah, I struggled a lot at school. I wasn't an academic, but you give me any practical thing to do and I'd absolutely nail it.
So in those other subjects that you were called those horrible names, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. What subjects were those, and were there more vocational things that you could do?
It was all of them, because I started, when you're younger and a child, when people tell you're something, you go, all right, well, you keep on telling me it, so you actually start to become it. So I had long hair at school when you weren't supposed to. I had suede shoes when they were banned, and I just didn't change them. I didn't care. I started smoking when I was 13 and wasn't allowed to smoke at school. All that kind of stuff. I was just bucking the system, and it's kind of two fingers up at it. So I was disruptive, and because I've been told that I was disruptive, and I associated that as a bad word for quite a long time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I came across a certain entrepreneur that likes disrupting that I started to actually think, and that's only in the last 2.5, 3 years. I started to think, actually, maybe that word isn't as bad as I always thought it was. Maybe because I find it quite important to not think one way. I like to try and challenge myself, and I like to challenge other people to think differently as well, because it encourages you to change. And when you change, you tend to grow as well. So it's quite a good tool to use to constantly push yourself. And I thought, you know what, this disruptive word, maybe I'll start to have a bit more of a look at this
Yeah.
and see what's going on. And yeah, and the positive side of it was like, actually, hell yeah, this is great. I'm back in the game. I've only been out of it for 30 years, just muddling along.
Do you think that your behavior that was called disruptive at the time, do you think that was because you were frustrated because you weren't getting support and you were bored, and then you were like, well, I need to
Yeah,
entertain myself?
100%. Yeah, I excelled in sports, and I only actually got into the secondary school because of my level of cricket that I played.
Okay.
And they wanted me. They basically the school want their cricket teams were failing,
Hmm.
and they wanted to get new blood in that were really top end cricketers. So half the guys that I played cricket with went on to play county cricket. Guess what? I didn't like the establishment or anything else, so I did it for fun. And I actually made sure that, so I was capable of being in the first 11, but I was too anti-establishmentarian, and so, and I also thought these guys they take it so flipping seriously. It's a game as well. I want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And because I had so much frustrations that people didn't understand in my everyday life, the sport to me was a way to unleash all that negative energy.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, I'd much rather be the best bowler in the second 11 and the guy that opens the bowling and the guy that takes the most wickets, because I can be the top dog in the second 11 instead of just being a random number in the first 11. So I stayed in the second 11, and occasionally they pulled me up when someone was ill or someone was injured or something.
Yeah.
But then I just literally was playing everything: basketball, squash, golf, anything I could do, I was doing it, and I loved it. But yeah, I only got this support from two and maybe three teachers at school, but the rest of them, because they didn't know about it, they struggled. I mean, when I was 16, I sat down at a parent teacher evening. You're going to go livid at this. And my ancient history teacher sat in front of me. So I was sat opposite him. My mum was sat on one side, my dad was sat on the other. And he said to my parents, do not send your son here for his A levels, because you will be wasting your money, because he's too stupid to get any A levels.
I thought
And
that was the bad bit, and I was like, that's not the bad. Oh, they called you stupid to your parents.
I actually clenched my fist. I just saw red at
Yeah.
16 years old as well. And my mum saw out the corner of her eye, and she just put a hand on top of my clenched fist and just grabbed it tight. And she just leant in and she said, I think we're done here. So she said to me, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to do my A levels, because for me, I'd been geared up to going, well, I at least need A levels when I leave school. Maybe I don't go to university.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Especially back then, it was like it was the be all and end all. If you didn't have A levels, you're gonna be sweeping floors, or you just got no potential in your life to do anything. So my mum said, what courses do you want to do, or what A levels do you want to do? I said, well, I really want to do English, because I feel like I understand it now, and I know that English teacher that's always looked out for me will be my teacher for the next 2 years. So I'd really like to do that, and I'd like to prove him right as well, and for him to be proud of me doing it. So I said, okay, what's the other one? I said, well, I really like Russian studies, but I can only do an AS, so like half an A level. So I did that, and I got on with that teacher. And she said, what else? You've got to have another full subject. I said, ancient history. She said, what? I said, ancient history, because I want that guy to see my face every 2 years for the next 2 years. I took ancient history, I do enjoy it, but I also mostly took it to spite this teacher. And I got an E.
Okay.
So, and Richard Branson failed his ancient history A level. So I said to someone a while back, there's hope for me yet.
Yeah. I just want to go back to something you said, that the reason why you picked the first two was because you got on with the teacher. And that's something that I really like embellish, that if you can build a relationship with your students, appropriate relationship, then you can teach them anything, because they're listening.
Yeah.
So that was interesting that you said that. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, well, I've always had this mantra, and again, I don't know whether it's my dyslexia or whether it's just the way I've been brought up with how we were brought up by our parents. for me and my brother. But I either do something or I don't do it at all. Because if I'm interested in doing it, I will do it and commit to it, and I'll do it till I've done it,
Mhm.
whatever comes. Even if that's at the detriment to me, I'll still do it to achieve it. But if I know I'm going to I'm going to put half the effort in, I'll keep it clean. If I'm only going to put half the effort in, then I won't do something. I just won't do it because it's a waste of my time and whoever else's. So if I knew my English A level, I was going to go, yeah, I'll give it a go, see what happens. I wouldn't have taken it because I wouldn't have felt that was fair on the teacher either.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with that teacher that called me stupid and all the rest of it. I did give him his comeuppance when I was 21, because by the time I was 21, I'd actually built a replica sports car with my family. We'd all built it together, and it was a really, really amazing car. It's a classic boys' car to have. And I turned up one day at the school, and when I parked up, he was there. And I didn't ever buy it to be flash. I bought it because I was really keen. I wanted to push myself and build a car.
Mhm.
And but I got out and he's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm great. And I just pointed at the car. I'm like, I'm living my dream. I said, I spend 6 months of the year in the French Alps skiing and working out there, and I spend 6 months back here in one of the best places to be in the sunshine, which is the UK. I said, I'm living the life. How about you? He's like, yeah, I'm all right.
Because he's still working there, right? Yeah.
And he looked fed up.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you for the push when I was 16. He'd completely forgotten he'd even said that to my parents. So I said, you telling me that was the driver that pushed me further forward to do all the stuff that I've done.
Can I ask, when you were diagnosed with dyslexia, because a lot of people that have that also have something else, did they comment on any other aspects of? No, they didn't. Okay.
No, and
Yeah.
but it was really new. I basically had what I call a multiple guess test. It was a multiple choice test, and it was really long. It took me about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And basically this test then got sent off to wherever it went to, and they basically decided, what kind of level I was on. Excuse me. I haven't done another one since, and part of the reason for that is because I hid it for 30 years. I've been in relationships where my partner didn't even know. A lot of my friends never even knew.
What are some things that you still struggle with now then that you've had to hide for such a long time?
Oh, that's a good one. So obviously, you know that I have quite an entrepreneurial lifestyle. So one of the things that you do as an entrepreneur when you're setting up a company is that you have to wear all the hats of all the departments. So when it comes to keeping log of stuff, a lot of people like Excel spreadsheets, fairly simple, fairly straightforward, and I'm okay with them, but it takes me a long time to do the stuff. And I do actually know a lot of the kind of I can build them out, and I can build them so that they auto calculate all of that kind of stuff. But I don't interact with them very well.
Mm-hmm.
If someone else sends me an Excel spreadsheet, I'll give it to one of my business partners. I'm like, I don't want to look at it. I don't get it. And actually it can be the same formula, but because I haven't built it,
I do that as well.
I can't understand it. But what's really great, so I've got a couple of business partners, Lionel and Ben, who I do a lot of the property stuff with. And Lionel works in IT. Ben works in the building industry, or as well as doing the stuff on the side. And Lionel actually got us to have a thing called Trello, which I know you know about, but for anyone else that doesn't know about it, Trello is a great tool. It's like a picture version of Excel. So, and I find it so much easier to deal with. So what they've done is that they've actually maneuvered some of the ways and that they work, because they either know or they can learn stuff quicker than I can. So, but yeah, it's really odd. I do leverage technology quite a lot to help me out.
Yeah.
Obviously, spell check, awesome.
And Excel doesn't, well, I use Google Sheets instead of
Yeah,
Excel because it's free, and that doesn't automatically spell check. So that's why I find Sheets quite difficult to use.
yeah. It's it yeah. I mean, but even that. I mean, I run an iPhone, and the amount of times I send a message and then I look back at it and go, oh, that's a bit embarrassing. All kinds of stuff spelt the wrong way around and extra words put in, and
Yeah.
but that's I went to a Darren Brown show years ago, and he did this really interesting exercise where there was a whole paragraph that you read, and the whole audience read it out together. And he said, right, screen went black, and he went, I'm going to give you a another paragraph to read, and we're all going to read it really fast together. As soon as it comes up, we'll read it. So it came up, and he read it, and I was looking at it, and I'm going, none of those words are spelt right. And basically, the middle of the every single word, all the letters were switched around,
Right.
because our brains actually recognize words, and they recognize the shapes of the letters, and they actually, it processes so fast the front and the end of the word, especially if it's a longer word.
Yeah.
So I learned about that kind of as well from him. So for me, my whole journey with dyslexia has been trying to learn how to work around things.
Hmm.
And the more you learn to work around things, that the faster and the quicker you can problem solve.
Yeah.
So I've been in situations with friends, with with my other half Catty, with my future stepsons, where there's all kinds of things going completely pear-shaped, and I just take a breath and look at it and go, right, cool, bang, done. And I just create the solution there and then. And that's why this, there's a whole kind of movement, this dyslexic thinking movement, that is trying to get people like us into positions where we're leading people, because we have different thought processes. And someone was asking me about it the other day, and they said, how do you see things? And I said, well, have you ever seen that you know how people have an entrepreneurial journey, or they want to get into a business or a pathway, and everyone wants the straight line from start to finish. And then what actually happens is there's like 25 squiggly lines on a bit of paper. That's actually your journey.
Yeah.
I said, for me, I look at the straight line, and that's a nightmare, because I know that's not happening. But I look at the squiggly mess, and all of those squiggly messes just completely change, and it's a bunch of straight lines, and I just know which way I've got to go.
That's interesting.
And but I said, that's all kind of inside my head. But it's little things. You can get really frustrated when, especially with computer systems, when you're trying to do something on a computer, and there's 20 steps in it, and you're doing 19 steps right, and the one step is the one step that you just can't see anywhere. And that's something that I find really, really frustrating. But I know the answer to that is to start phoning up friends that use those tools, or other business contacts or business partners, and then they come in and go, oh, actually, what about this? And you go, oh, that's the one little bit that I didn't do, thanks. So I think I find it easier to ask for help now.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I wanted when I was a lot younger, is I wanted to do everything on my own, because I wanted to prove to the world that I was invincible.
Yeah.
And
Like
and
Batman.
yeah, exactly, like Batman behind me. Yeah. But yeah, and you're not. No one is.
Yeah.
And actually, the sooner you learn, whether you're dyslexic or not, the sooner you learn to ask for help, the better.
Because I
Because
think
most,
that dyslexia and ADHD and autism, all these things are quite big at the moment to discuss. But I think actually, in general, everybody has things that they're better at and things that they struggle with. And the less we need to put labels on things, the more that we're just empowered just to say, oh, I'm stuck. Can you help me with this, please?
yeah,
And that we can really praise people for the things that they're really good at. I just think that will just be life changing for so many people.
yeah, yeah. And again, it's, you learn certain things as you get older. So when I was younger, I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to be invincible. And my plan was to be all things to all people. So my business, it's like, what department do you run? All of them. I'm the man. I can do everything, you know. And
Big.
then I realised actually a bunch of the stuff I was doing absolutely terribly with,
Yeah.
and there's still stuff that I'm terrible at. But what I do is that I either work with business partners that really excel at that side, and I stick to what I'm good at, and what I'm good at helps propel me and has helped my success as well. So far.
If you were to give some advice to somebody that either was already diagnosed as dyslexic or they were just thought they might be, are there any top tips that you would give to people that would help them get through the days, basically?
Yeah, I would say anyone that thinks they might be dyslexic to get a test done. Get a test done, and I mean, so for 30 years I hid this and I struggled with it. And when I say I struggled with it, it's very easy. It takes me 2 seconds to say I struggled with it. I struggled with it on a daily basis, quietly, hidden away. And it is so mentally tough to deal with that, that actually when I started, a year and a half, 2 years ago, saying that I'd got it, saying on social media that I got it, then this dyslexic thinking movement started happening.
Hmm.
And that obviously gains more momentum, and there's more people kind of saying, that I do suffer with this. And and yes, I do suffer with it, but also it is I call it now my superpower. My first thought is not I'm suffering with this, it's my superpower, because I can help loads of other people with it. And I'm very fortunate that I'm now in a position to be able to do that on a global scale. So it's my advice would be to speak to anyone that's got it, that's openly out there on social media saying that they've got it.
Yeah.
Connect with those people, and yeah, and get a test done. I mean, there's a great book by Kate Griggs called Made by Dyslexia, that I got that through the door about 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and I started reading it, and I read 50 pages. I was so sucked into it, and then I've got kind of busy and I haven't finished reading the book.
Have
But
you ever finished reading? I've never read a whole book in my life. Have you?
I have, because I've now forced myself into doing it, to going, right, just choose a book and read it. But I didn't read for 25 years, because I left school at 18 going, that's it, I'm never taking another test. I'm examed out. I'm just doing my own thing and I'm going to take on the world. And I did. And then I went back to uni at 21 and went, damn, I'm going to have to take some. But I did a course that was all coursework. So I never actually had to take an exam.
What was that? What was your degree?
Travel and tourism management.
Interesting.
Yeah, HND. So, but it also it correlated with the fact that I used to live in the French Alps and I used to do ski seasons and I worked within the tourism industry. So I also had a real interest in that industry.
If you did because I started a HND, but then I left and then did a degree. So you didn't do a dissertation at the end. Did you only do 2 years?
No, I did 2 years, and then the third year I was like, nah, I'm too grown up for this. I've already. The trouble is when you're 18 and you go out and you start earning money,
Yeah.
and then you go back to being a student where you've got no money, or you're spending it way faster than you're earning it. I mean, I did exceptionally well on credit cards at university, and it took me a decade to pay them off. So I had 2 years of absolutely hammering them. But again, I was just completely reckless when I was younger. But I've gone back subsequently, and I do take tests now. I do push myself. I do CPD training on things that interest me or things that I want to learn more on. And actually, the more you feed that, the more that helps as well.
Yeah, because I can read things I'm interested in. The point is, if somebody just says, "Oh, you will find that interesting," I actually get a block. I'm like, "Oh, now you've told me it's interesting. I'm definitely not going to like it because the expectation is so high, and I just can't focus."
Yeah.
I start daydreaming when I'm reading. You just mentioned CPD and self-teaching things, and we'll talk a little bit about your new position in a bit, if you don't mind. But I'm a teacher, obviously, in a school, and what I find really funny is whenever we get training, like somebody to come teach us about dyslexia, they're not people that are dyslexic. So they just make up this stuff about us. And I'm like, and the other thing is they tell you that you have to give practical activities, don't just read off the board. But that is how they teach the CBD session. Like, you need to model what it is that you're
Yeah.
teaching people to you. It makes me so angry. So I'm really excited that people like ourselves can be telling people what it's actually like, so that for the future generations, hopefully it will just be such a different experience. So thank you for being out and proud about your design. So yeah, go ahead and tell us about this new position you've got and what difference that might make to a lot of people.
Yeah, so it all started actually with a phone charger. I lent someone a phone charger at a property event, and well, I was actually sat in this property event. There was 100 odd people in the room on tables, and I'd seen people charging their phones up over the course of a couple of hours of the morning. And I was charging my phone up. It was completely run out. Classic kind of going to an event, didn't charge my phone up overnight, so it was on like 3% when I arrived. There was loads of speaking going to happen. I'd got my laptop. I'd actually fortunately managed to throw an iPad in as well, so I had got 50% charge on that. I thought that's all right. I've chucked my charger in. So I got up there. I started charging my phone up, and yeah, a couple of hours in, I'd seen other people with phone charge, and this lady said, "Oh, guys, sorry to disturb everyone, but I'm about to run out of phone. I'm out of charge on my phone. Has anyone got a charger I could borrow?" Straight away, two of the people that I saw with the chargers, they looked down. One looked down into a folder to look busy. The other one looked like they were texting and on an important phone call or email, whatever. So they'd kind of, you know, hidden themselves away in their phone. Two other people, and this is no word of a lie, honest truth. Two people got their iPhone chargers off the table and put them in their rucksacks. And I was like, for anyone that's listening to this, it's about an inch. I was about an inch close to calling those people out, and then I thought, hang on, remember where you are. I'm in a training room. This isn't my domain, and I'm here as a delegate, not as a person teaching. So I thought, no, right, okay. So I said, I've got a charger you can borrow. So she's like, oh, brilliant, thanks. So she kind of scooted round the side, and she's like, oh, but you're using it. She's like, how much have you got? I said, I've got 6%. She went, oh, no, don't worry about it. I said, no, take the charger, because I've got an iPad here with 50%. And I said, if there's anything that I need that badly, I'll either ask the people that are doing the training, or I'll just speak to someone else in the room. And guess what? It gives me an excuse to network some more. So just take it and just give it back to me when you're done. So she said, okay, cool. So anyway, I stayed in contact with this lady. We were on some more training a month later. And I walked up to her at the back of the room and I was like, all right. She goes, yeah, all right. I said, yeah, can I borrow your charger? Because I'd forgotten my charger on that event. So it's became this little in-joke between us. And we started talking more. And then it ended up, she said, oh, have you thought about writing in any books at all? Because she was writing in a book at the time. And I said, no. And then I kind of opened up to her and said that I'd got dyslexia and I'd always wanted to write in books, and it was always a bit of a dream of mine, but I'd never really told anyone about it. And I thought, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how the hell I'd do that, how to publish books, all that jazz. So it ended up that I got introduced to this community interest company called World Game Changers, and I ended up meeting the founder. He, as well as this other lady and a few other people, really helped me with my first few chapters. And then I really started to get into the flow of it. And the more I wrote them, the more I was really enjoying it. So I ended up writing in a 10-book series with other authors from all over the globe, sharing their heartfelt stories about experiences they had over their life, etc. And it's called Speaking from Our Hearts. So 10-book series. So I was like, that's cool, brilliant. So then I thought, well, I want to find out a bit more about this World Game Changer stuff, what they're doing and what they're up to. So spoke to the founder, and he was telling me what was going on, what their plans were, what they wanted to do. And this community interest company got set up 2.5 years ago. So this is about 1.5 years, 18 months ago, maybe even 2 years now. And I just sat there and I just was in silence. And he said, you all right? I said, Paul, I've been looking for this for 25 years and I finally found it. And I said, but what's really crazy is that you've had this in your head for 25 years. And it's only in the last couple of years, you know, pretty much just prior to COVID happening, that it got set up. And it's just gone bananas. There's so many incredible people that are involved in it. Some people that I know from the kind of property and entrepreneurial circles that I work in that have got involved because they love what we're doing and what we're trying to do. Other people from all over the globe, different nationalities. One thing's led to another, and I then got asked to be a director. So I was like, yeah, of course. I haven't looked for this for 25 years to then go, nah, it's not for me, really. So I got involved at the director level, and then I don't know how many months it was, 6 months later, like, look, we'd really like you to sit on the executive board of directors. So I'm like, okay, all right, well, that's a lot more responsibility, but yeah, I'll take it on, because again, I always want to push myself, because that's part of the reason why I want to push myself, is so that I can inspire other people to do it. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, there was a bit more of a change coming, and I was asked if I'd be the CEO, of which I accepted. Although it's a hell of a responsibility, it's a major step up. But yeah, I basically became the CEO of World Game Changers 7 days ago. I've been the CEO for a week.
Congratulations.
So thank you very much. Yeah.
And what does a CEO do?
Now you're asking.
I don't even know what all those other jobs do. But
well, a whole world of stuff, and again, it depends on what the a CEO in a corporate entity will do something different, even business to business. So one, a financial CEO or CEO of a finance company will do something wildly different to the CEO of a construction company. But it's just a whole bunch of things. It's helping build out the teams to facilitate projects. It's making sure all the directors are okay, making sure that they've got all the resources that they need, they've got all the connections they need to be able to facilitate those kind of things. Obviously, to talk about it to other people that don't know about it, to spread the word and raise the awareness. Yeah, just do everything all round that exists for World Game Changers, or whatever entity someone's working for. So but yeah, it comes with a bunch of other less fun stuff, responsibilities, like all the legal side, the HR side, all the paperwork side of things.
You struggle with the paperwork side of things? Because I do, because of my dyslexia. But
certain aspects of it I don't enjoy, and when I don't enjoy something, I struggle with it. So, but what I do there is to just make sure that there's someone in it that excels in that. So for me, I network a lot, because I tend to have conversations like this with a lot of people, and I'm very open and honest when I have conversations, and most people find that most people go into a conversation and they want something. So I would start a conversation with you because I want to know more about you, or because I want to sell you something of what I do, or there's something that I want out of it. I don't have that attitude, and that's partly down to my dyslexia, is that I just want to meet people, have conversations with them, and go, oh, do you know what? I might know someone that could help you, or actually you could really help me because I think what you do is really cool and XYZ, or by the way, can I show you World Game Changers, because I think it might be really interesting to you. And it's literally just having those conversations. And I've had conversations like 2 years ago with people, and they're bouncing back to me now going, oh, look, I've heard about World Game Changers, how can I get involved?
Yeah.
I've had a look at the website. I've had, I kind of get what you guys are up to. What do you need? And so, and a lot of people, they dismiss networking because either they don't like it or they don't want to do it. But it's imperative to do. It's one of the most important things to be doing in any business environment. And anyone that if let's say you've got 100 friends and you think you've got dyslexia and you don't want to tell any of them. How are you going to get past that? You need to start looking somewhere else. So, and funnily enough, actually, today I've just been out for a walk at a National Trust, and in the car park was a van, and it was actually a local dyslexic school from 7 to 16 in Reigate. They deal with 7 to 16-year-olds. I actually took a screenshot of it, and my stepson noticed it before I did. And normally it's the other way around. I notice stuff like really minuscule, minute stuff like that, but he just noticed it before I did, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to take a picture of that, because that's one of the things that I'd like to do, is go round to some of those places. And I actually plan on going back to my old school and approaching them to see if they want me to do a talk there.
I think that'd be good,
because it's it's you've got people like Sir Richard Branson. I should have said Sir Richard Branson before, my bad. But he's a director of over 250 companies, and he's dyslexic.
Yeah.
You got Keira Knightley, the actress. She lets everyone know she's dyslexic. I mean, that must be a complete nightmare, because she has to remember lines for movies.
Yeah.
So, and it affects everyone differently as well. So it's not a one size fits all and there's one solution. It's everyone has to work around it, the struggles and the problems differently. But they also, on the flip side of that, they work around problems differently and create solutions.
What's something that World Game Changer, that's a huge title, by the way, World Game Changers. Can you share with us something that's going on at the moment? Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah, so, well, one of the things that we've got going on right now is that on October the 22nd, we have got the first Global Impact Summit. It's happening in London on HQS Wellington, which is a ship that's moored up on the Thames. So it's a live event there, but we're also running it as a hybrid event. So there'll be people in the room, there'll be various different keynote speakers sharing past, present and future projects, and a bit on how we're kind of shaping up how World Game Changers is going to look and operate over the next 2 or 3 years, and moving forwards after that. But because it's a hybrid event, we're also online and it's live. So I was going to say it's a live uplink via satellite. That shows how old I am. So it's going to be online as well.
Like Star Trek or something.
Exactly. It's going to be out of this world. Yeah, so it's running from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. And for people that aren't able to make it to the event, because we've sold almost all the seats now anyway to the actual summit itself in person. But the beauty with online is that we'll be across the world, and we've got people tuning in from all over the world. That there's some of the people that are involved in World Game Changers that can't actually get to the event. So they're going to be in there. They're going to be on the Zoom call as well. So anyone else that kind of joins in on the Zoom, they'll be able to interact with those people directly, find out a bit more, understand a bit more, as well as being in contact with people in the room. And there'll be various Q&As during the day, and we'll actually be interacting between the venue itself and online. Cool. So it'll be a pretty cool day to get to as well. And the beauty with online, obviously, is you can dip in and out anyway. So
if you send me the link, I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
Nice. Cool. So I feel like we're coming to an end here. What I want to ask you is, the education system is obviously different now to as you knew it, but you do also have 2 children going through it as well. So in your eyes, your personal opinion, what do you think needs to possibly change within the education system?
I think one of the things that should change around neurodiversity is actually that every kid should have the test.
Yeah, I think so.
If you do common entrance, I mean, I'm assuming you do common entrance still. I don't know, but you do.
I don't know what it is, so I don't think.
Well, okay, so I did common entrance, but that was going from kind of the junior school into the more senior school. But you do GCSEs, you do A levels. They're all tests. and they're geared one way. But the education system, there's a few systems that are quite I'm going to go out there and say it because it's my personal view, so I'm allowed that. I think they're quite antiquated. And why not have that test? And it's not a test to see how people fail or how they struggle, but actually that test could help the teachers, because my teachers that didn't know I had dyslexia thought I was a little so and so.
Yeah.
And if they had half the chance, I would have had the ruler on my hand, I would have had the cane, I would have had all that old school stuff,
Yeah.
which was just coming out of schools then. But that's the kind of attitude that they had. Whereas the teachers that knew I did have it, they applied a slightly different way of teaching, or they'd lean over and go, "Did you get that? Did you get that, Andrew? Were you okay with that, or do you need a bit of hand with that?" So I think it's not about just helping the children out; it's about helping the teachers out. Because unless you're specifically trained as a teacher to recognize it and know how to deal with it and know how to teach with it, and teach a bunch of kids in a classroom that don't have dyslexia, ADHD, obviously autism's a little bit different because you're more likely to go to a specialist school from that, but
Not necessarily.
but
Yeah.
but that's what I mean. So and if everyone was tested for that at a certain age when it becomes apparent, because there must be an age range where that kind of sits.
Yeah, there's some tests that you're not allowed to take until you are a certain age. But yeah, I would agree. I mean, I work in alternative provision, and I would argue that 95% of the kids that I work with have some kind of like learning disability, but it's not been diagnosed. And I think, how can they have got to year 10 or 11? So they're 15 or 16. This has never been picked up in their mainstream school. And I'm pretty sure it's a money thing. It's because you have to pay to take the test. And I would love for all of my kids to do it, but in reality it takes about 2 years now to actually go through a diagnosis in some places in the country. So by the time I work with a young person, they would have left me before they've actually finished. Yeah, I think it's sad, because you're right. If everybody just took the test, I don't know what age would be appropriate. I don't know. Like you said, as they move from primary into secondary, but then some people have already been struggling all through primary. Then yeah, it'd just be out there. No, you do, you don't, you need this help. I think the thing that's important is what help do they need, rather than who does and who doesn't. Yeah.
And it's not even a who does and who doesn't thing anyway, because going back to the sports side of things, you have a team game of 11 players. They're going to have varying different degrees of skill.
Yeah.
Or they'll excel quicker because they understand the training quicker. It's no different than learning something in the classroom. But the difference is that sporting, you can tell, if someone, when they're running, they're struggling, a teacher can see that a mile off. They're like, oh, okay, that kid's, there's always a kid that's got asthma when you're playing sports. So they're always a kid that struggles. But then the teacher can see that because they've got an inhaler, or they've been told they've got asthma, so keep an eye on them. They've got the info. It's down to information. The more information we have for anything, the more we can make a informed decision on how best to carry things forward.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you know you've got a classroom that's 50% ADHD, 25% dyslexic, and 25% neither, that's a hell of a class to teach. So why don't you maybe shift them around a bit if that's possible?
I think if they tested, because obviously when they do statistics, that is only based on the people that they did test. And I think it would be really interesting, like for if one year group, they actually did test everyone in the country, which would cost a lot of money, because I don't think they have any idea of actually how many people are suffering with things.
There isn't, because like I said, I'm just one person. I hid it for 30 years. 30 years. My parents knew that I had it. My brother knew that I had it. And some other close family members knew that I had it. Most of my friends didn't. So but I knew that I had it. That's half the battle, knowing that that's it. You know, if I take myself back to being 12, it's like, why am I thick? Why am I getting told I'm stupid? Because I know in my own head I'm not. And you know, I'm not Einstein, obviously, but it's I've got. I'd like to think I've got a reasonably high intellect, um, because I work hard at what I do. But that's part of the reason why I work hard, is because I enjoy being able to problem solve. But I knew in my head, that little voice that talks to you in your head was like, "You're not stupid. You can do stuff." You know, my teachers only saw me at school. They didn't see me. You know, 1987. I was 11 years old. With the village we lived in, there was a massive hurricane. We couldn't get out of the village for a week because of all the trees that came down. There were 2 chainsaws in the village at the time, and my dad had one of them. So at 11 years old, I got taught how to use a chainsaw. Now, today, teaching an 11-year-old is probably a health and safety no-no.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I got taught how to do that. I've got a picture of me helping the builder at home at 3 years old in Wellington boots, and I'm mixing up cement in a bucket to help the builder. So practical stuff,
Yeah.
I've always had that, and it's not an issue. But
And I hate
yeah,
to think of how many people, not just children, because they could be grown-ups now, that
yeah.
just think to themselves, I am stupid. I've always been told I'm stupid. I'm just stupid, because they haven't found the thing that they're really good at, perhaps, yet. Maybe they've not been exposed to enough things to find that. But yeah,
But they don't have that. They don't have that knowledge either. That actually, this is what's going on with you. Okay, so now I know what's going on with me. Now I can start to figure out. And now either that's help with someone else, or you know, you know, growing up, we didn't have the internet. Now everyone, you just look, I can find the answer to something on here
yeah,
in 5 minutes. Not necessarily the right one, because all the wrong answers are up there with all the right ones. But um, yeah, I mean, another one is when people say, "Oh, just you know what you like, just stay in your lane." It's like, well, some people don't know what they're like because they don't realize it, and actually, they've got incredible skills that no one, because they don't know it, they don't know how to tap into those skills, and because they don't know how to tap into those skills, they can't excel in anything. So they just assume, yeah, that's my lot. So it would be great to be able to help lots of people on that side of things.
I can't wait to see you make it happen as a world game changer CEO.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right then. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I hope lots of people learned lots. And even if they don't think they learned lots, I think the more that I do these kind of things, and you do these kind of things, it will drum into people, and we will educate more and more people. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right. See you later. Hey, my name's Shona Finister, and I'm currently fundraising for a woods that I can use to work with young people that don't fit mainstream education. I myself am dyslexic, I've got ADHD, I've struggled at school. I did quite well in school, but I did struggle. I'm more of a hands-on person, so climbing the trees and building things is definitely more my cup of tea, shall we say. So what I'm looking to do is purchase some woods. In this woods there is a property that I will be doing up so that I can work with young people, and we've got an inside venue, but a lot of the work I do with the young people will be outside in nature. We'll be learning how to do some forestry. We'll be looking at running events on the site, activity sessions, and we can also raise money to continue our work with the young people by running events for businesses. Where you can train your staff and do team building sessions. So that's what I'm trying to fundraise the money for. At the moment I'm looking for £150,000, which to some people they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money, but to other people I know that £150,000 isn't actually that much money. But if everyone gives a little bit, that would really help. Alternatively, if you don't want to give any money away, but you are interested in investing in some woodlands, because there are a lot of good reasons to do that as an asset for yourself, then please do get in touch, because it could be possible that maybe you purchase the site for yourself
but then you lease it to me so that I can do the good work that I want to do, and we can work together on building that business. So yeah, please do get in touch. Thank you. Bye.
Finfinch was set up to empower young people with the tools and confidence to achieve success. If you'd like to be part of our journey, please check out our website www.finfinch.co.uk or email us at info@finfinch.co.uk.